Good morning, all these lovely people in the sanctuary, and good morning to all of you who are streaming the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Grand Traverse this morning. We're delighted you're with us. I am Marianne Rivers, and I'm a member of the Sunday Services Committee, and it's my privilege to welcome you all at this time of exploration on a deep subject of self-love with Reverend Alex and me. We have some words, we have some music, we have some stories, and even a very special guest meditation. So, here are some of my thoughts to begin our morning. When I was very young, I listened to my mother. I listened carefully to my father. I listened to Grandma. I listened to my big brother. I loved them all, and I longed for them to love me. I thought if I was what they wanted me to be, then they would love me. Well, then came the teachers. Then came friends, came society with all the rules to follow if I wanted acceptance. By the time I chose to marry, I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I needed. How could that end in anything other than disaster? Which it did. But I was blessed with two beautiful daughters who helped me move steps closer to knowing and loving myself. In their eyes, I was wonderful. I was fun. I was very loving. I was nurturing, and I was the source of all of their food. They asked for very little. Clean diapers, sustenance, cuddles, somebody to listen when they got older. And so together we grew, and we opened up our hearts to add 6 more children in our family, more for us to love. And instead of passing on the old messages, you're too fat, you're too short, you're too loud, you're not enough, I was able to offer these new passages. You are beautiful. You are fine. Wherever you are on life's journey, I am with you. I love you, and I will stay by your side. Well, that was me. Now back to the service. Are there any visitors here today who would feel comfortable standing up to introduce themselves? Notice I said comfortable. Oh, yes, who are you? Hunter. Well, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad you felt free to introduce yourself. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm here too. I'm Kat.
Now we have 2 cats in the house. Ooh! Oh my goodness. Okay, anybody else? Well, those of you who are visiting, after the service, we would invite you to join us in the fellowship hall for coffee and fellowship. And if you would be so kind as to take a yellow cup, we would know then that you're visiting, and we'll make an effort to introduce ourselves and say hello to you. Now, we have a very special, very important message from Dusty Colton.
Well, first of all, forgive my voice. It's a little froggy. Yes, and I'm Dusty Colton, treasurer, finance committee member. I was told to give a rousing kickoff talk about our annual budget drive 2023-2024. Our theme this year is Rising with Abundance, Pledging Our Hearts. I was asked to do this in 5 minutes during a service of loving ourselves, likely to be a cornucopia of emotional, spiritual events. This may not be the usual kickoff drive talk. I believe a major part of loving ourselves is loving others. That act of reaching out creates space within ourselves to receive love. I believe we are an intentional community of folks who have this at their spiritual core. We are drawn to this pilgrimage. The UU principles and ethos provide the space where we, as the community of UUCGT, can thrive. We started out as a group of parents who wanted to teach their children humanistically. We now are a community of imperfect but dedicated practitioners of compassion, fellowship, emotional support, knowledge seeking, being open to hearing and seeing others as they are, standing against injustice, and impacting the community in multiple ways. I encourage you to partake fully of our joys and sorrows. I encourage you to be involved not only just Sunday mornings, but in our committees, our religious education, our small group ministry, and our various outreach groups. You never know what you'll give and receive. I encourage you to tell those of us in leadership how we can foster your participation. I encourage you to participate in the funding of our community as best you are able. Remember, the annual budget drive income is 85% of our total income. As the financial goal this year, we have set it at $270,000, same as last year. There's no inflation in our goal setting. Last year, we did get $230,000 in pledges, the most ever, but we still had to begin the year with a $20,000 deficit budget. Due to your hard work and gifts in pledging, donations, fundraising, we are managing that situation. Given the financial times this year, we hope to reach our goal or get very close. That would be about a 15% pledge increase. I only say this to give you thought about what it means in the big picture. We have made some adjustments to lower costs. The figure $270,000 does include adjustments for inflation costs, revitalizing youth religious education program, paying dues, and increases in the plant and building costs that our aging, beautiful building needs. You will see on the line the brochure and sign-up process in the flash. There will be paper copies for those that prefer that medium. You will hear how the drive is going from me, from the podium, and through the office emails. Thank you for being on this journey with all of us.
And now sink into a meditative state as you listen to our own Amanda Mangiardi play a melody she composed. It's called There You Are.
Whoever you are and wherever you are on life's journey, there you are, right? You are also welcome here this morning. I'm Reverend Alex. I'm the minister here at UUCGT. I use he and him pronouns. And welcome to this Sunday of complete abundance, the grand start of our annual budget drive this year, the Sunday of loving both ourselves and also one another. We believe love is a verb here at UUCGT, one that we take seriously and try to live out in every way we can. And we hope that you can feel the love as you settle in and know that every part of who you are is welcome here. And so as we embark on this settling in, I'll invite you to hear some words from the researcher and author Brené Brown. I have a few short excerpts. I really just love her work. And she speaks to us on the items of vulnerability and self-love. And so I'll invite you to hear these. In a society that says, put yourself last, self-love and self-acceptance are almost revolutionary. You either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside your story and hustle for your own worthiness. Doubling down on love demands that we be brave enough to stay awake to the struggle in the world and fight for justice and peace, while also cultivating love in our own lives. And lastly, love, belonging, connection, and joy are irreducible needs for all of us. We can't give people what we don't have. We have to live love to give love. And so into the spirit of love, I invite you this morning, come, let us worship together. Now is the time where we will light our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, also a flame that really kind of signifies our great love for one another and our neighbors that abides all around us. I'll invite Ollie to come forward and light our chalice. Thank you, Ollie. And I will read our chalice lighting words from the Reverend Erica Hewitt. With full hearts, we affirm our relationships with one another. We recognize our agency and our connective power, and we accept our responsibility to be bold and courageous. We light this chalice, symbol of all that we are and all that we have done together, and all that we will be as our shared ministry encourages us within and beyond our walls. And now let us sound our Buddhist singing bowl as we enter this time of sacredness and contemplation. And may the sound of this bowl fill your heart as you sink into its reverberations and open your heart to receive the love that is the peace of this morning. And now, if you would, please rise in body or in spirit as we join in singing our opening hymn. This is number 1053 in your teal hymnals. How Could Anyone? We'll also have the, it'll be in your teal hymnal. We don't have lyrics this week. And Mary Ann will lead us in singing.
How could anyone fail to notice?
So to kick off our annual budget drive, I would like to invite Eddie Grimm to come forward and offer our first in a series of testimonials.
Why here? Why this place? Did you know that there are over 100 churches and synagogues in the Traverse City area? And they represent over 32 denominations. So why have I chosen to be a part of this congregation? My own spiritual journey has been a long and twisted road. I grew up in the Methodist church, and some of my earliest memories center in the local church in my small hometown. I actually had two hometowns, Middletown, Indiana, and Mackinac City, Michigan. But it's church in the small town of Middletown that I have the best and most important memories. I have warm memories of studying and admiring the stained glass windows, depicting the life and ministry of Jesus. And I love that huge pipe organ in the front of the sanctuary. One time a friend of mine and I snuck into the back behind the organ to see how it worked. Yes, we got into a lot of trouble. I also have fond memories of Sunday school and my teacher, particularly Dean Campbell. And she used to call me her little preacher man. I also remember when I asked her why she called me that, she said, "Because you're going to be a preacher." When I was 11 years old, my mother was healed of a life-threatening asthma at an Oral Roberts crusade. She became a Pentecostal shortly afterwards. Now, my dad continued going to the Methodist church, and he told me I could make my own choice. I strayed from Christianity during my college years, but I came back to my roots as part of the Jesus movement in 1972. Some of you may remember that. Yeah, we were hippies. We were part of the counterculture. And we became Christians, and we did it in a counterculture way. I was recognized at that time as an elder, or that's what they called ministers, of the Fellowship of Christian Believers that formed out of the Jesus people in that area. Then in 1982, I studied in seminary and began to be a pastor in the United Methodist Church. And it was in seminary that I met a Unitarian Universalist student who was also studying for the ministry. And we had a lot of eye-opening, fascinating conversations about Unitarian Universalism. In 1985, I became divorced, and about that time I left the Methodist Church, and then I began a period of wandering and searching. Along the way, I have attended nearly every major Christian denomination, even a Jewish family Passover. I have heard well-known preachers and teachers, even took part in an invitation-only audience with the Dalai Lama. Around 1990, I started reconnecting with my Native American roots and became a faith keeper in the Native community in Indiana. In 1993, I met my second wife and began to associate with the Unitarian Universalist Church in Muncie, Indiana. We were divorced in 2007, and I moved to Michigan. After moving to Michigan, I finally admitted to being gay. That's a fact that may explain my 2 divorces. And this became a part of my spiritual journey. After moving to Traverse City, I attended several churches as well as visiting here from time to time, and some of you may remember that I actually spoke a couple of Sundays and took the services. I also spoke here at some LGBTQ events. So why am I here now? What is special about this place? Well, 2 things have drawn me to this place after a very long and twisting spiritual journey. Most importantly, I don't have to say that I believe something that I don't believe. I'm not required to accept a creed. I am free to search out my own beliefs. We are joined by what we value, not what we believe. I am free to find my own truth and understanding. And of most importance, this personal search is done in a supportive and caring community. A community that joins me in this search for truth and cares about me as an individual. It's been a long and twisting spiritual journey for me. And I honestly feel at home now in this free-thinking, caring, supportive community.
Well, I think both Dusty and Eddie have given us many things to think about as we consider sharing in the stewardship of our congregation. Please consider your part in the giving of gifts to grow and nurture ourselves and the congregation. Try to think of all the ways we can be of service to each other and our neighbors and the world at large. Baskets will be passed in the sanctuary, and there are 3 ways to contribute if you are streaming. You can mail a check to the UUCGT office, or you can visit our website, uucgt.org, or you can download the Venmo app in your iPhone. We are once again privileged to enjoy Amanda's music. This piece that she composed is called Afterthoughts.
Now is the time in our service where we hold the joys and concerns that touch our lives, those things that we have to carry ourselves that we know we need to carry with others. I'll be sharing a few of those joys and concerns that have been offered up for us to hold. If you have a joy or concern that's a bit too tender to share with us in our service, I invite you to light a candle at any point during our service if you'd like to do so, or you may reach out to myself or to a member of our congregational care team, or simply just hold it on your heart as you are surrounded in the love of this community. None of us is ever meant to travel this journey alone. And so here are a few of those joys and concerns that are to be held as we are gathered. I have a bit of a selfish personal one to share, and I don't normally like to do this because I'm not really big on birthdays, but tomorrow is my birthday, and I will be the ripe old age of 27, hard to believe. I'm just starting to age in front of you as I grow with this community. But I just have to say, I just really feel just so much abundant gratitude for this community, for all the sources of goodness and love in my life. And so my heart is just really full, and I wanted to share that with you. I have a candle of gratitude from Sylvia Walworth, and so we hold gratitude this morning. From Heather Shoemaker, a sorrow. My mother, who I've been caring for in Ohio, has been diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And so our thoughts and prayers are with Heather and her mother. From Joy, such a pleasure to go visit Don Frazier at Orchard Creek on Wednesday. Nancy and I spent over an hour just chatting and laughing with Don. I miss seeing those two sweet friends. On February 7th, celebrating the life of Heather Blaze Roberts, gone too soon, never forgotten. And now let us pause for a moment as we hold all of the joys and concerns that remain on our hearts. I'll now invite Mary Ann to come up and introduce our guest this morning.
Our guest today is Kat Brown, and we connected after many years of not seeing each other. We've known each other a long time, but we hadn't seen each other for a while at Carl Kyneth's birthday party. So one would think that we would be talking of light, fluffy sort of things, how have you been, and all that sort of thing. But when Kat mentioned that she was studying a new meditation through movement, using movement, that tends to deepen self-love and self-knowledge, I thought, oh boy, I'm going to invite her to share that with us. We are an open congregation. We accept people where they are, and Kat today is here. So please welcome Kat Brown.
thank you for there's really love in this church, in this building. I feel it. And so I am really grateful to have this opportunity to share. Is basically what I'm doing, is my experience, my strength, and my hope about self-love. I have notes, and of course, I'm probably gonna cry, just because when you're being vulnerable, you're very raw. And we all have moments of being vulnerable. And we don't share that much. You know, where I came from the line of, I'm fine, yeah. And I know how to keep the face, and I know how to keep it up because I'm good at acting. And I grew up, wanting to move from the get-go. But we were Presbyterian, and we sat like this. And then as I would do this, my mother would give me the, huh. As I got older, I moved down until she couldn't do it. But, it was just something within me that movement has always been a language for me. And we all have it. But as everything in artistic expression, we get sometimes stifled, especially as we get older. We don't move as much. I noticed that as I am on my journey. And self-love and forgiveness, I thought I had it kind of worked out because I was very much like a flogger. I beat myself up, and that's what I do because I want to do it before you do it. And it won't hurt so bad if I do that. And I live like that. And as wanting to be a dancer, I didn't have the body. You're too tall. You're too big. You're too fat. So what was my design of fixing that? Anorexia. Okay? That's what we didn't know what it was then, but that's what I did. And I got really, really skinny. And then go to college and someone teaches me about bulimia, and I don't even know that is something that is going to be an addiction. And that is a shameful addiction. Because I'd much rather be an addict of alcohol and drugs. But when you tell people that don't know what it is, it doesn't sound good. It's filled with shame, and I don't want to be in shame anymore. So self-love has been a journey of shedding the shame. I'm the one carrying it. I'm the one picking it up and flogging myself with it. And I don't want to do that anymore. I've lived a life of doing that. Been through the alcoholism. I'm grateful to be sober at this moment, but I take it one day at a time. And I have in program, and I'm learning about, love and self-forgiveness, and I thought I was up on the top of it, and I'm getting this, and I'm loving myself, and I'm happy. And then I get vulnerable again, and I become a survivor of a scam. And that is a shame of, I cannot tell you the feelings. I can't even verbalize the words of the self-shame that I am putting on me, and I don't want to. So movement, I'm not here to say down it, but it's like movement is what brings you vitality. It's what makes you alive. And your soul has children do it naturally. Just put some music on. But we're so afraid of how we're looking. Are we cool? Are we in control? But our soul wants to speak through your body because that encompasses all of you. It's an action. And it can be as simple as breathing. But breathing in a way that you're not concentrating on what you're looking like. You're concentrating on embodying the message that's being said and believing it to be your truth. It is exhilarating. I'm telling you. It's kind of like working out, but you're more receptive because it's a message of trying to embody it, to be in you. And your soul is uniquely yours. And you will move like nobody else. And that is what we want as vulnerability. So, this movement meditation, I just ask you to move as you are comfortable. But do breathe deeply. Do move your arms. You know, if you're gonna just stay in your seat, which is fine, but there is something about standing, if you're able. I know you got an injury there. But I would ask you, if you will please, if you feel comfortable, to stand up. Oh my God. And we're gonna just kind of spread out to the open space. So if you're on the edges, can you just kind of move out? And of course, I will not ask anyone to come front and center. I'll do that. Because, you know, it's the acting part. No. So, what I want you to do is to go within. Start with your eyes closed. If you feel like you're going to fall down, then please sit down. Start with the breath of believing in loving yourself on a deeper level. Because let me tell you, I have understood now that I have to surrender below the surrender I know. It's another layer of my surrendering into self-love. So I ask you to feel what your heart wants you. It's a language. The soul language comes out through your body. So we're going to start with the song called There's Only Love. And there's no right way to move.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when it seems I've lost my way, when I go inside and quiet my mind, I can hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. It's love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. It's the love that heals, the love that sets me free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only love. There is only love. There's only love. There's only
Talk about vulnerable. Yowzer. We should do that once a day. The reading for today is, "Your church does not need volunteers." This may seem a little counter to what we've been talking about all morning, but it'll work itself out. This is by Aaron Wathen. I was writing my weekly note to the congregation. Usually in this note, I share a few words about the message for Sunday so that we can all be reflecting on the same topic throughout the week. It makes the sermon more of an ongoing conversation. I sometimes discuss something that's going on in the life of the church as well, but this week it was more of a thank you note. Because when I think about how much work my church folks did over the last few weeks to get ready for Easter, it blows my mind. And as I look around the property, I see the fruits of the labor. Sparkling windows and floors, finely manicured landscape, dramatic paraments, hung with a complex pulley system by dedicated house elves in the wee hours. I don't see a lot of that here, but and then I start thinking about the work of the worship team, the children's ministry team, the musicians, not to mention greeters, handshakers, bulletin hander-outers, and coffee makers, and the youth group out there hiding eggs for the little one, plus more behind-the-scene workers I have not mentioned. Just thinking about it makes me feel overwhelmed with gratitude. In writing this note to my people, I wrote that it takes a whole village of volunteers to make all this happen, and then I found myself hitting the backspace button because volunteer is not quite the right word for what the people do at church. I know I'm not the only one who cringes when somebody sees me without kids in tow and asks if my husband's babysitting. Well, no. I mean, yes, he's home with the children, but I do not think you can effectively say babysitting when it's your own kid. I'd say we just call that parenting. I feel the same when people talk about volunteering at church. And yes, I know it's just a word, but it's the wrong word for a lot of reasons. If you ask a grandparent or an elder of your church, I'm pretty sure they'll tell you that the church they grew up in never asked them to volunteer. Historically, the church has asked people to serve as deacons, as greeters, as Sunday school teachers on the property committee, whatever the job. It was considered a service, a ministry. The language of volunteerism is a pretty recent addition to the church lexicon. It has emerged with the megachurch of the last few decades and the culture in which small to moderate-sized churches replicate the language and the practices of the big guys. Volunteering is something you're asked to do right off the bat when you walk in the door. If folks get engaged, which is great, maybe you give them a flashy name badge that says volunteer in big red letters, or a brightly colored t-shirt that declares volunteer on the back. So everybody identifies with you as someone who's there to help, one who can answer questions, give directions, or generally point you toward the donuts. This is a good thing. But I balk at the secular nature of what it means to volunteer. To volunteer means that you're an outside resource. You're stepping in to help an organization in need. Volunteering is what we do when we pick up trash at the park, or we build a house with Habitat for Humanity, or we help sort food at the food pantry. Volunteering is what I do with my kids at school on Friday. In other words, it's what you do at a place that's important to you, but it's not a place that belongs to you. And I guess that's the important distinction for me. You cannot volunteer at your own church in the same way you cannot babysit your own child. Because the church belongs to you in the same way your family does. It's your place. It's your own people. So of course you help to take care of it. Of course you do the yard work. And of course you make the coffee. And you teach the kids. And you sing in the choir. And whatever else it is you do for the home and the people you love. A volunteer in most cases is just visiting, a flyby. Maybe it's a helpful flyby, but it's not the same as belonging to something. It's not the same as contributing to something bigger than you, something that's part of who you are. Maybe some practices in inordinately large churches are good ones, systems from which we can learn a great deal about connection and engagement. But ultimately, the language of volunteerism is secular, and more to the point, it's corporate. The notion is rooted in consumer culture, in which we can swoop in and give or take a measure that we deem fit, and then dart off again feeling as if we've done our part. We do a disservice to our faith and to the gospel itself when we reduce the work of the church to something you mark on a time card. Well, all that said, we live in a world we live in, and we cannot realistically extract this word from the life of the church. It's both a noun and a verb. And it's the one that just rolls off the tongue when we're asking people to come and do work, which in the church, we are forever asking people to do. Yeah, still. As I plan for a summer sermon series on discipleship and what it means to let the church be the church, I feel a strong nudge to challenge how we talk about and think about the time and energy we spend in ministry. It's important to recognize these gifts for what they are, ministry. And I'm not sure the word volunteer does justice to the depths contained in the work people actually do in their churches. Call it serving. Call it discipleship. Call it the priesthood of believers, or mission, or the ministry that we all share together. Admittedly, priesthood of believers does not look that great on a t-shirt, but it maybe doesn't invite visitors to ask you where the bathrooms are. But whatever we do, we should remember that we don't just belong to the church. The church belongs to us, and we do not babysit what is ours.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Thank you for that. One of the greatest gifts I ever received was hearing these words at a UU teen camp. Some of you may have forgotten, and I'm only joking here, but when you're a teenager, there are all sorts of messages that you not only receive from others, your family, friends, or society, but you also receive so many messages from yourself. Wondering about how well you're fitting in, noticing how weird you're feeling inside, but also wondering how weird you're also being with others. The feelings of loneliness, feeling at times like What we're experiencing is really just ours to experience. And in hearing those words at that time, they seemed to just break me open. Finding out that in that circle of love, there were actually a bunch of other weirdos and oddballs just like me, who were also wondering if they were good enough or if they were fitting in. But what spoke to me wasn't the message from the group, though it's powerful to receive these words together. It's actually the message I received from myself. Yes, it was good to sing together in a circle, but looking back, I was really singing to myself in that moment, receiving this in a way that just set my heart on fire. That proved to me that Unitarian Universalism really was the religion of love, true, unfettered, and reckless love. That my inherent worth and dignity, even if I doubted it at times, was still there. That I was worthy enough to even be beautiful, even in all the ways I saw anything but beauty within me. Though, to be honest, what they don't tell you as a teenager is that these questions and worries never really go away. Let's go ahead and normalize this a little bit. Raise your hand if you've ever wondered if you were a bit too wacky or weird, if you've ever wondered about fitting in or being accepted. See some hands coming up. Let's go ahead and keep your hands raised if you still wonder at times. If you still feel nervous walking into a room, or if you're ever wondering how well you're being liked or how you're being perceived, it's funny how we still actually continue to worry about these same things. And so in this Soul Matters month of love for February, we're starting off with that incredible, difficult challenge of loving ourselves. And I know what some of you are thinking. Yeah, I've heard this one before. This is where we get all mushy and vulnerable and talk about ourselves. And you're partly right. That's what we're going to do. Though I want to make this an invitation to that small part of yourself that might be yearning for a message like that. I want to see if we can suspend the shame and fear that we feel around being vulnerable and leave our hearts open to encountering the deep spirit of love that we know is at the heart of who we are and what we do here at UUCGT. And so be with that spirit of love now. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that loving yourself isn't easy. It's quite possibly something we'll always have to work at. Somehow it seems all too easy to point out the flaws and pieces of who we are that don't seem to conform or fit in. It's so important to start our journey with self-love because we really only accept the love we think we deserve. Those of you that recognize this quote will know it from The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I wonder if any of you have read that. But loving yourself is a radical act in the ways that it actually helps us to reframe our expectations about how we are treated. That if we truly believe that we are worthy of love, then we will act like it, and in turn, we will tune into the connections with others that also are loving. I think all of us actually can even think of at least one person who has no issue with knowing just how worthy they are. That person that's perfectly fine cutting to the front of the line or interrupting someone else when they have just that really important thing to say. That is the challenge of this faith, inherent worth and dignity. It does apply to all of us. Think about how this sets up their expectations too, how there's a different baseline for them than for those of us who are even struggling to like ourselves, let alone love ourselves. Now, Brené Brown teaches about just how important this is with nurturing love for ourselves across all parts of our lives. To repeat a quote that I shared with you earlier, we can't give people what we don't have. We have to live love to give love. We have to live love to give love. You'll also recall our sizable reading this morning that we had a piece titled How Your Church Doesn't Need Volunteers, a pretty provocative title. Who do we think we are that we can be so choosy? There's a thread that connects to this idea of self-love as well. Volunteering is the wrong word for what we do in our community. When we give of our time and we give of our presence, what we're really doing is showing how we love. In a congregation or church, we would do better to remember what an incredible gift it is to belong and be a part of a community like ours. This is not something that we have to desperately plead or make a case for. I bet every one of you is here in either a small or large part because you know how important this is. We already know how wonderful it is to find a place of like hearts and minds, to have a community to both know us and also to know ourselves, but also to be known by. We know the abundance that comes from all of the opportunities that you can find here, the discussions, the workshops, small groups, the camaraderie. When we think about self-love, we need to think about the value and worth of this community right here. A place that means more to us than just volunteering of our time, instead a place that is built on love. A place that helps us to remember our own worth in times when we need reminding. A community that tells us that even the jagged and funky parts of who we are, that even though love begins first in ourselves, we sometimes need to receive love before we can live it. I think back to that anxious and nervous and even awkward teenager that I was, standing in that circle of voices and hearing those words wash over me, that I was nothing less than beautiful and whole. As Reverend Wathen puts it, whatever we do, we should remember that we don't just belong to church, it belongs to us, and we do not babysit that which is ours. So if you've been paying attention this Sunday, you'll know that today marks the start of this grand annual budget drive. Don't worry, I didn't bring my big stick with me. You won't get any of those talks from me. This place is really one that belongs to all of us. And as a congregation, this is a time when we need to show a bit more self-love for our community, not just on a communal scale, but also an individual one. We could actually all use the opportunity to get comfortable with being uncomfortable with one another, with learning how to be authentic and vulnerable in whatever way that we can best show up as ourselves. If we ourselves can do this work, just imagine the impact that we can have on our wider community. And so, to wrap up, I'm mindful of our time this morning. I want to clue you into something really exciting that's happening here at UUCGT. After meeting with the board, the Committee on Ministry, as well as our annual budget drive team, we believe that UUCGT is at a pivotal time. And because of this enthusiasm and the love for this community and how it belongs to each one of us, we've discerned that now is a great time for us to envision our future. So in response to this, the board has formed what I will affectionately call the VMC Task Force, a group that will solicit feedback from the community and work to update and revisit our vision, mission, and covenant statements so that they are actually still relevant for who we are today. We have a strong team that's already formed with 10 people strong, and this is exciting and important because even aside from pledging and supporting this place financially, this is actually your place. This process is not my process or vision. It's not the board's process or vision. It is yours. And by participating in this process as a whole community, we're all given the chance to weigh in and discover parts of ourselves that we really, truly love. So stay tuned for more. But more importantly, I want to leave you to think about these two questions. To what have I pledged my heart? And what is the love we think we deserve? What is the love we think we deserve? May it be so, and amen. Let's join now in singing our closing hymn, number 1014, Standing on the Side of Love in your teal hymnals. Mary Ann will lead us in singing once again, and I think we've got a wonderful spirit of singing and support, so we'll carry this one together.
I hope so, because it's very high.
Please rise.
Hoping Nan.
The truth in our hearts is our guide.
Here's a poem from Marion Killeran to close out our service. As we listen to the blessing of the music, may we know this ending as more than a time of goodbye. May the warmth of this community and the memory of our chalice flame sustain our hearts and encourage our minds as we engage the blessings of life's challenges and joys. The service has ended, but your service is just beginning. Go enjoy.
And so, in the spirit of covenant, community, and commitment, in the spirit of love that abides here, that is just bursting at the seams to break out, may we be made ready to serve one another and to create the world that we so desperately dream of. Go in peace, all. May it be so, and amen. And now I'll invite you to just attend a short 2-minute postlude to just abide in that love as we receive the gift that is this gathering. And so, Jeff, if you'd be able to play that postlude, wonderful.
I am a gift, no matter what age, no matter how I look, there's beauty in each stage. I am a gift, and I promise every day, when I look in the mirror, I'll say, I am a gift. I am a gift, I've loved really well, and every year I've lived has a different tale to tell. I've made mistakes, have some regrets, but I promise I'll never forget. I am a gift. I am a gift. There may be times when I forget the truth about me, when it seems time and youth are just marching on without me. That's when I might need you to find me and ever so gently remind me that I am a gift, a precious child. I'm put here on this earth, but only for a while. So I make this vow, and I say it